I'm Stephen Hicks. My guest today is Phyllis Johnson, who spoke in the Business and Economic Ethics class today on the theme of coffee and entrepreneurship and women in Africa. Ms. Johnson is the founder and president of BD Imports. It's a Rockford-based entrepreneurial firm, and they do wholesaling and retailing of coffee all over the world. I like your story about how you came to entrepreneurship. You had a university degree, a really nice sounding job, but it wasn't enough for you. Why did you become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's funny because you always want to leave where you come from. And what I realized after getting a university degree in microbiology, I realized that it was my family upbringing, working together on a farm in Arkansas as a family, doing odd jobs, throughout different seasons, that really made me want to start my own business. It just, it created something inside me that said, it's okay to work for someone else. You can do that, but it's also an opportunity to do something on your own. You can be a bit more creative.
But at the same time, you mentioned it was quite scary,
Yes.
the first steps. What was scary about it, and how did you handle that?
Oh gosh, it was scary for a lot of reasons. It took a long time. It was a process. I remember looking for a message in either at church, in conversations with friends that would help to persuade me to take the steps that I really wanted to take, but I was afraid to take. I was afraid that my livelihood would be threatened. My household livelihood would be threatened because my husband and I both worked outside, had jobs. I was afraid of failure. I think I was afraid that what if I failed? What if it didn't work? What if I lost financial income financially? And some people say we're afraid of success, and I think that there could be some truth in that, that we don't quite understand. What if I could work beyond what I think is possible for me? And so it's safe to stay in a space where other people are, and you don't fit in quite so much anymore because you've stepped outside of that realm of where you think you fit in. So you spent your whole life developing friendships, relationships with people who have things in common with you. So your family, they know you to be who you are. So stepping into entrepreneurship really creates a different person that you might be afraid of.
Okay. You could have gone on to do a lot of things, but you ended up going into the coffee business, and there might be a connection to the family farm, something in agriculture. How coffee in particular?
Well, it's interesting because as soon as I thought about coffee, I knew that it was where I was supposed to be.
Even though you hadn't been a big coffee drinker up
Exactly.
to that point. Yeah.
Even though I had not been a big coffee drinker. I rely a lot on intuition. And I know for some business people it can sound really strange, but a lot of it is gut feeling. What feels right is what I like to go with. And for me, I'm very comfortable being on a farm. I can really appreciate the open air, the hard work, the attitude of people who work on a farm. The attitude of people who work on a farm is pretty simple. It's not very complex a lot of times. It gives me joy to see a woman carrying materials on her head, straw or whatever, to go build her house. She's not bound with, I do this to make a living. She is physically making a home for herself. And so there's a true connection sometimes with people who work on farms that keep them grounded in why they do what they do. And I think that's very attractive for me.
Now, when you're getting into the coffee business as an importer, exporter, this is a worldwide business, very complicated, many major players. So you embarked on a process of self-education to learn the business. You also mentioned you got some literature from one of the coffee organizations, in effect warning you off, don't try to do this.
Right, exactly.
What were the obstacles that they were pointing out to, and of course that you did have to grapple with?
Yeah, they were very realistic obstacles. They were very realistic. But, it's funny, I'm the eighth child of 8 children, and I chose to study microbiology in college, which you don't find women traditionally studying science and math courses. For some strange reason, I always saw myself as doing the hard stuff. Not because it was easy, but because I wanted to do the hard stuff. Why do I have to do the mamsy-pamsy stuff just because I'm a girl? That has really been my attitude through life. I love coffee shops. I love coffee shop owners. I just thought that I want to go a bit deeper. I want to get a bit closer to where all this comes together and be able to make impact. And of course you can make some sort of impact locally or nationally, but for me, I wanted to get close to the pulse of where it all began because I felt the intuition that I could make a difference on a large scale. So, but the organization, that the Specialty Coffee Association of America, that sent me this wonderful article when I asked about information on becoming an importer, and they sent me an article on 3 reasons why you should never become an importer. Right. I became a member of the organization. I served on the board of directors for the organization, and I still volunteer my time with the organization. I think the information was valuable, but it was also a motivator. So, I think it was up to me to determine how I took that information and what it has taken to survive 12 years in this business, living through probably one of the most economic downturns, in our history for certain. It took having that sort of information in realness to what I was embarking on to get through it. So.
Now you mentioned that part of your drive was you wanted to be closer to the action, and you like the agricultural rootedness of coffee, and so that took you to Africa, and there you found that the majority of the work, right, in raising the coffee is done by women, but it's, put it mildly, very challenging, right, on a number of fronts. What were the major problems or things that bothered you when you got close to how the coffee was actually produced in Africa?
Yeah, well, years ago, I think probably on my first trip, it was bothersome to watch a group of women sort through coffee cherries, which is what you do as part of the processing, and then to take them to be weighed. And I remember I asked the person who was recording the weights just to see this one lady's tally sheet of what the coffee cherry she had been bringing in for weights. And so he showed it to me, and he showed me about 1,000 pounds of coffee cherry that she had brought over a period of 3, 4, 5 months. And I asked, what's her pay going to be? And he said, $20, something equivalent to $20. And I just thought about the amount of physically back-breaking labor involved in picking 1,000 pounds of coffee cherries for $20. And I literally walked away in tears thinking, I got $20 in my purse right now, why didn't I just give it to her? But that would not have been the thing to do. And that was back in 2003. Luckily today I work with the United Nations International Trade Center to do things on a global level in several African countries, to work with leaders, national leaders, to work with national organizations, women on all levels, to make a difference. And that was the way to do it.